today we're going to be talking about the eyes from the sky.
It's hunting from the air. You may not be pulling the trigger, but you're definitely hunting from the air, and you just never know what you're going to see. It's the sheer amount of, helicopter crashes we've had in the last, 3 years. Unfortunately, there's probably 3 of our ranches where they've all switched to drone surveys, not only because of accuracy and all those things that we'll talk about, but safety. The ranch owner does not want the ranch manager in helicopters anymore.
What made you specifically say, I want to do drone surveys?
It was more of, I think, passion driven. That's why we went wildlife. If you're going to be the best, you got to start with the best. You got to start with the best equipment that money can possibly buy. So the equipment will take you so far, but the system and process in which we do, which is really a driver of what makes Skyhunter what it is.
Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to ask everyone to subscribe to our channels. Again, the more people that like, subscribe, and comment, the better our analytics are and the better the guests we have. But a fun fact for you, only 38% of the people who actually watch or listen to the podcast are subscribed. So again, before we get started, if you wouldn't mind just clicking the little subscribe button, it would really help us out a ton. Thanks and enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're normally talking about animals specifically, but today we're going to be talking about the eyes from the sky. Today we've got Jay Hunter from Skyhunter TX. So Jay, welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be at Droptine Studios.
Yes, sir. So we obviously know and we can see on the counter that, you're doing drone surveys and other things like that. But before we dive into there, give us a little bit of background on who you are.
So Jay Hunter, the hunter part of Skyhunter TX, just kind of a serial entrepreneurial person that loves technology. I'm an avid hunter, avid fisherman. I love to offshore fish and always wanted to carve a way into the tech space as well as the, the high fence, exotic ranch world side. And utilize the drones to make that a pathway after we, kind of started seeing this evolve from the helicopter side.
Right.
A couple of things that were really powerful to me on the launch of this is just the sheer amount of, helicopter crashes we've had in the last, 3 years, Unfortunately, there's probably 3 of our ranches where they've all switched to drone surveys, not only because of accuracy and all those things that we'll talk about, but safety. Safety was a huge thing, and insurance liability. Going from, putting a ranch manager, a owner up in a helicopter.
Right.
So,
yeah, and it sounds like you mentioned it a little bit, but it sounds like you're a little more business savvy when it comes to that. So what other companies have you run, started, owned?
So one thing that I think people are kind of floored about when they meet me and they learn my history is I was a large resort executive chef for 30 years. I've been all over the country, which has allowed me to hunt and fish all over the country. I worked in Hawaii, born and raised in Florida. My mom's Texan, so that's kind of always had some roots here. And so I started off doing that years and years ago. I was importing hunting flashlights, and I sold them all over online. I had a sign company out of my garage at one point, and moved that into a shop and sold that. Currently, I have one other company outside of this. Bayview Restaurant and Bar, located in Cottonwood Shores, Texas, right next to Horseshoe Bay, maybe a mile and a half or so from
Great
there.
restaurant, by the way.
You've eaten there.
Yeah.
Spectacular views of Lake LBJ. It's incredible. So, and started this 2 years ago, the Skyhunter TX, and really just went all in. late nights, early mornings. We've slept in the truck. We've slept in, cheap hotels. We've really ran the gamut of, uncomfortableness. But I'll tell you, every time myself and my co-pilot Cole, get ready to head out, we're fired up as soon as we hit the truck. You just never know what you're going to see. It's hunting from the air. You may not be pulling the trigger, but you're definitely hunting from the air, and it's incredible. If it's your passion, there's nothing better.
Yeah. So you ran other businesses. You've got your other ones. What made you specifically say, I want to do drone surveys?
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do with drones, right? I'm no photographer at all whatsoever. We get photos for our ranch owners, but there's nothing in their survey report photos. There's nothing you're going to hang on your wall, but they're going to be there for, looking at size, mass, animal health, all of those things. They're great for that. Real estate photography, I think with a drone would bore me to pieces. It was just something that I started watch evolve. But I also didn't think it was perfected. And I thought that the opportunity to perfect this was 1/8 of an inch wide, but 9 miles deep. And I've kind of figured out that your pocketbook's got to be about 9 miles deep.
Yeah, no doubt.
So and it was just where we wanted to enter that was our entry. As we grow, as I said before, we are going to be looking, we have all the equipment, our system and process with our Skyforce One Can-Am. It's funny that we call it Skyforce One, but that's what we do. With our Can-Am that's decked out where we fly off the top and then the co-pilot's on the bottom, and then the experience for the ranch owners to be able to sit back there and watch, or ranch owner, ranch manager, to be able to sit and watch the screen. Well, what we found out is that setup is incredible for flying pipeline, and especially because BV loss, so to speak, beyond visual line of sight, is such a sticky thing with the waivers and everything right now, and hasn't been, Part 108 hasn't been passed.
Right.
So that was something that we're very interested in. It was more of, I think, passion driven. That's why we went wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather go stare at kudos than, go fly over somebody's house on the lake.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of our businesses stem from, is some type of passion. Most ranch owners buy it because they love hunting, or I grew up around the exotics and I love being around exotics. And so being able to start Droptine or Sky Hunter or a hunting ranch, it's all stems from some type of passion from it. But one thing you mentioned I want to talk about is what kind of license do you need to just operate a drone?
So one thing, and this is really, there's a huge lack of education for ranch owners. And I was really surprised to see that 3 or 4 people that in the ecosystem of what we do have actually been arrested for flying. And I'll tell you why. So what a lot of ranch owners don't know, if you're going to fly a drone that is over 250 grams, I think it's 250 grams. I have to look it up. It's a threshold right there. Okay. You have, and you're going to do that for any kind of compensation. So if you own a hunting ranch and you are selling animals, you're creating commerce. Now, let's say Droptine Studios comes out and he says, well, Droptine, if you come out, I'll let you shoot this black wildebeest, we would hope, right?
Right.
That's, in the eyes of the FAA, that's commerce.
Yeah.
So then you must have a Part 107.
Right.
Okay, to fly them. The other challenging part is what people don't know, and this is what's getting folks in trouble with the hog hunting and stuff like that, is the aerial wildlife management permit. Okay. You have to have one to fly your own ranch. You can't just launch up your drone and go fly wildlife. Whitetail deer are protected. I guess, is it the state actually owns them, so to speak? Is that a thing? You were in that business.
They claim they do. I mean, it's not even if you're a breeder, it's on your hunting ranch or low fence, high fence. The state, quote unquote, owns them.
So when you're flying over them, whether it's your own property, your own deer, you have to have that aerial wildlife management permit. And it's not hard to get. Right. It's not, I think it's don't quote me on the pricing, but it's under $250 if I remember. Right. That's every year. You have to renew every year. You have to do quarterly reports on when you're flying. But that's kind of the law. So what's happened is everybody's buying these drones, which I think are a great resource for a ranch, but not understanding the law portion that goes with it. So Part 107, aerial wildlife management permit, report in your flights every quarter, or, well, if you're private, right, or on your own ranch, I mean, if you fly it once a quarter or you fly it anytime, you have to, log that.
Right. Yeah, and I just looked up to see if my Wi-Fi in here will work, but yeah, so it's going in through that. But I mean, anything over for 250 grams is half a pound.
Right.
So essentially, all drones.
But I mean, but the little FPVs, but they're not even equipped to carry thermal.
Right. For sure.
There's just no way. They don't exist.
Right. So. Yeah, because I've even had that with nonprofits, and so I would talk to them, and they would say, "Oh, well, we don't do this," and I was like, "Is there any cash exchange?" Because like some churches would be like, we're going to baptize people. We want someone to fly around and get that. And I'm like, you have to have someone like, well, we're a nonprofit. We're not doing this. And it's like, no, you're still exchanging cash. You still have to have a Part 107.
Absolutely.
And so, but that's the other part is so people, and pretty much just listening, we're not attorneys. I say it almost every podcast, but have a license, make sure you're doing it right, but especially with your thermals and everything you're doing, like call Jay.
Exactly.
And that's one thing we're going to kind of pivot before we get back into the business side. You mentioned it, but the fact of what like you do with drones and what we do with drones or pictures or videos is wildly different. And I don't think most ranch owners or people in general get that.
They don't.
Because I look at you and I go, man, I respect and admire what you do. And I think we've had conversations in hotels at 2 a.m. outside bars, but doing that, because what we're doing is we're not so much flying in, doing that. We're trying to get like the prettier cinematic looks, looking for the sun, trying to do all this.
Right.
And we have to make a video, like a professional video out of it versus a professional representation. And so what's your view on what you do media wise and what we do media wise?
If you want it to be pretty, you want pictures and all of that, hire Droptine Studios. save yourselves the headache. With us, there's nothing really cinematic about what we're doing. We're trying to find the animal and get the shot. And sometimes, and we're not good at, we're not cinematic photographers, right? We're hunters and we're looking for animals. I'm looking at a topographical map, on, not to plug Onyx, but I like their product.
Right.
But on Onyx or Insert Land Glide, whatever it is, and we're looking for topography, we're looking for animals. And to get the shot of them standing there, right? And not moving, because if they move, it'll blur, it's there's a lot that goes into trying just to get that shot. I couldn't even imagine trying to make it cinematic pretty or photography, quality level. I couldn't even imagine that. And I don't have the skills to do that.
Well, and that's why we talk about, and I know we're going to talk about gear a lot, but just having specific equipment for specific jobs is very important. And because like we're working and we thrive off light and you thrive off the lack thereof. And And so like we're like, okay, we'll be checking our apps, we'll be checking things and be like, okay, the sun, we might be in Utopia and there's these giant Texas mountains. And we're going, okay, the sun rises at 7:00, but we're not going to go shoot until 7:20 or 7:30 because it won't be up and we can't utilize the light. Because the worst thing we do is we jump the gun, we go out there and we see the shot, but we can get it on our camera and the settings are terrible and it's not worth marketing.
Right.
But with you're like, okay, when does the sun go down?
Exactly. You know, rut, the absolute worst time for me. Not because, not meaning hard to find or anything, actually easy to find, relatively, if you have the right equipment. Right. But because they're moving, correct? Hard in the aspect of getting them to slow down for a shot. Like there's a video on Skyhunter TX's TikTok, and it's a big buck, probably 210, right? Big, good buck. Like the ranch owner wanted a photo of it. And I just told him, I said, hey, I'm going to swoop down and I'm going to grab you an amazing video because I can't get them to stop. You know, when we get into the equipment and how it all works together, now we've integrated another piece with the speaker that allows me to, you know, how you stop a deer whenever you're hunting. I can actually do that from 300 feet away with that. So now I can try to get them to stop. But, as you know, as a hunter, getting them to stop in the rut, I mean, you can yell, you can throw things out of your blind at them. You know what I mean? Right.
Well, let's just kind of go into that. Walk me through. If you're only listening and not watching, I recommend you go watch it, which you can also, if you don't know, listen and watch on YouTube and Spotify. There's videos on both, but walk me through what everything is up here.
So when we talk about Skyhunter TX, we're talking maximum investment load, right? If you're going to be the best, you got to start with the best. You got to start with the best equipment that money can possibly buy. And then you got to, for us, now you got to implement a system and process to get the best results. So the equipment will take you so far, but the system and process in which we do, which we'll talk about after we get through the equipment, is really a driver of what makes Skyhunter what it is. So right here, we have our S1 spotlight, right? This spotlight is actually not LEDs. They're phosphorus. It's really, really cool. So with our old drone setup, right, we were dropping down, probably in the 260 foot range. Now I cruise at 300 and I light them up like they're daylight. We could do that with the other drone setup, right? Drop down, but we'd always have to go down, go up, go down, go up.
Just for the people listening, just because the light wasn't bright enough.
It wasn't directional enough. So this one is two directions, kind of like a car, high and low beam. Then you talk about the V1 speaker, right? That is a whole topic on its own. But with the V1 speaker, now we can move them when we want. It's funny too, because we do have a soundbite of an R-22 helicopter working that we will run, but where the drone is positioned and with the sound being so directional, sounding from 300 feet, sounding like it's right here on your shoulder, correct? It doesn't disrupt everything on the ranch. We're trying to get access out from under trees, right? Correct? Because we want to get a good count. That thing has been a game changer as far as what we're doing with that. And there's more on that. Then we have the H30T. That H30T camera, that thermal is, I told you jokingly earlier, that piece alone costs basically more than most people's entire drone in a box and a tailgate setup that they show up with, right? Like that thing is incredible with temperature separation. Where this really comes in is the hotter months. The weather is crazy in Texas. I can be flying a ranch and it's 75 or it can be flying a ranch and it's 90 degrees at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, right? I mean, it just depends on time of year, I guess. So there's another mode in there. It's called high res mode. DJI actually developed it for wildlife. That's the only camera that has the high res mode. So the high res mode will shorten your temperature separation zone. So let's say your rocks or your topography are 98 degrees. Let's say they're 99 degrees, right? But your whitetail deer is, what do they run? 113?
Somewhere around there.
I'm no doctor. I'm no veterinarian, but it'll give you an idea of the temperature separation. I need to be able to see what are rocks, leaves, foliage, things like that. And I need to separate those as deer if they're, laying amongst everything else.
Right.
So that camera has been an absolute game changer for us. Now, do we need to use that camera all the time? No. You're going to see us fly with 4TDs. This year, you'll see us fly with 400s this year. You may even see us fly back with the M32s we used to fly with. Different conditions, different time of the year, different need for equipment equals a lot of investment.
Right.
But equals in equipment, the best results money can buy. You know?
So let's go through kind of part by part, just, I mean, for our listeners to understand, and maybe they've never had a drone survey, right? Which we'll get into that versus helicopters as well. But so when you're talking about your flying, well, let's even preface before that. Explain your rig and your setup, because as you mentioned, the tailgate flyers, essentially what they're doing is they may plug in a TV or they may do something, or they may just send you the video afterwards.
Right.
What is Sky Hunter's setup? Because I would say it's more of an experience than just a drone survey. As summer approaches, deer are starting to grow out their antlers. So if you are looking to promote any of your antlered species animals, make sure you give Droptine Studios a call for all your media and marketing needs.
It is. Sky Hunter was built to be a ranch, was built to, first of all, have the equipment, the best equipment money can buy. So there's no disadvantage in the equipment. The system and process, so there's no disadvantage in system and process. The system and process is very key. We have a Can-Am. We partner with Alpha Rack or Alpha Innovations, short Alpha Rack. You'll see them at all the trade shows, and you always see Brett and them. We built it where I fly from up top. It gets me up higher off of the tree line a little bit. So if I'm on a little higher slope, I'm up there, then I'm getting his signal. We also fly co-pilot, our pilot and co-pilot system. And then, so the co-pilot is down on the bottom.
So every time someone hires Sky Hunter, there's two people.
That's a big expense load. So there's two people. There's a pilot and a co-pilot every time. My
biggest investment and my biggest turnaround is my salaries.
Yeah. Right. So with, and then on the back of the Can-Am, Alpha Rack, or Alpha Innovations, they built us, what we call the experience kind of area. So now there's a chair there. There may be two this season, where a ranch owner, a ranch manager can sit right next to my co-pilot, Cole Zimmerman, who is just an expert eye. I mean, the guy's been looking at thermal for 2 whole seasons. You know, he's incredible with understanding what animals they are, where to find them. You know, if you hire somebody just off the street that's like, oh, I bought this thermal drone, this looks easy because I saw these videos online, right? And they go out there, but they can't even identify your animals. You know, a springbok from, insert species,
right.
Like some of them are hard to tell the difference.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like a roan and a sable, or a black buck and a dama, or
right.
Any of those.
So having not only expert equipment, expert system and process, But an expert at identification is, I mean, that's the whole combo, right? And that is not $1 an acre.
Right.
That's just not what it is. And nor will it ever be.
Right.
You know, yeah, it was built to be the best and nothing less than the best.
Right.
It was never built to be cheap.
Right.
And
yeah, and we'll go into the pricing side because I think we both get told we're quote unquote too expensive often. But I would say our calendar says otherwise.
I agree.
But so with that, when you're looking at the screens or your customers are looking at it, because like you said, people might not realize at night those rocks or rock formations or other things are holding heat from the day.
They are.
And so when you're flying, you might see where another drone pilot or whatever zooms in and they're, I don't want to say wasting time, but they're inspecting, is this an animal? Are they bedded down? Is it? And they realize, oh, this is a bed of rocks or whatever it may be. But with this, so what you're saying is you can pretty much control the temperature gauge of what I want to see. So if you're like, hey, if we're in August, I might make my temperature over 100.
Yes.
So that way you're not wasting time looking at rocks or you're not wasting time looking at foliage.
You're going to get the rocks. You're going to get the foliage. They're going to be there. It's going to give you better target separation. Rocks are thermal nemesis, right? Especially, it's funny because we get this accuracy conversation all the time, and I'm sure you and I are going to have it, but I'll explain how different times of the year really impact accuracy, but also different topographies and knowing where you're flying, when you're flying, and are you flying at the optimal timing to do that survey to produce optimal results. So rocks are a nemesis. They are going to show up. You will see them on a screen. One thing that is very hard to deal with the thermal drones is, believe it or not, live oaks.
Really?
They look like mushrooms. They radiate heat. They look like mushrooms. And, well, we all know acorn season, where are all the deer?
Right under those trees.
Right under those trees. If you don't have a tool in your tool bag, like a directional speaker that, by the way, is rated sound-wise. So DJI says that speaker is as loud as a jet engine is full throttle taking off. Can be. It's pretty incredible when you hear it, and directional. But, you have to have the tools to do the job.
Right.
When those scenarios happen. I can't just say, oh, well, it's hot, ranch owner, I'm sorry, you're going to get a 30% off count. I have to say, I give you got a great count because we have the tools.
So did they create that for drone surveys, or what did DJI, because I don't think DJI is specifically like, oh, we made this to make Kudu step out or Axis step out. So what did they intend it for?
Law enforcement.
Really?
Yeah. So if you've ever seen on the TV where you got a drone hovering over a house and they're saying, come out with your hands up, that's the speaker. And it was directional to where they're trying to communicate. And that's what it was used for.
And now you use it to make Kudu and Axis get out. Because we talked off camera, but I guess tell the audience tell me the story about when you saw 4 or 5 Axis and then you use a speaker. Yeah,
I have a video of it, and I haven't produced the videos yet. I've just been incredibly busy with the speaker, or videos where we use a speaker. So all of our ranch owners are private, so I probably won't use any of their names as just, out of privacy reasons for them. But we were on a specific ranch in Mountain Home, and we counted, I think, 310 Axis deer on that ranch, right? And we were flying along, and I told you that the live oaks look like mushrooms, right? And you can dip down to one side or dip down to the other side, or, when you're flying your pattern, come in lower to kind of get under them, but it can be very hard, right? So what we wound up doing was we saw, Cole saw 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 right around there. And he was like, But when we got over it, the one thing about that that H30T is I can actually look darn near behind the drone, which no other drone can do that. So I'm flying along straight. I can drop that camera and turn it almost to look backwards. So whenever I went over them, right, I saw the mushroom top of, I call them mushroom top of the live oaks because that's what they look like. I turned the camera back and I was like, and Cole was like, hey. And this is the value of the co-pilot. He was like, turn around. So I turn around and I look and we see through some holes in that canopy. He goes, hit him with the speaker. So we fire up that R22 working sound, right, that we have. I come down into about 220 feet and I 14, 15 of them run out from underneath there. And if I didn't have this tool in my tool belt here, so to speak, for my drone and a multiple payload capacity, I would have never got those animals.
Well, how often does that happen? Like how often when you're on jobs are you using the speaker?
The speaker, it depends. Whenever we go up and we start looking at topography, right? We start looking at what trees are in there. We start looking at what time of year. This is not a tool that I need every survey or every place.
Right.
But when I get into Axis and Kudu, specifically Axis and Kudu, that's when I always run the speaker. Whether I think I'm going to need it or not, if I'm doing it and I've got a ranch owner that's, hey, we really need a strong Axis count. You know, everybody needs a strong count no matter what the survey is, right? But when you're looking at these harder to find animals, oh, you want to talk about another one? Ibex. Ibex are not the easiest guys to find, right?
I was going to say, because not only are they always in rocks, and then two, if they're not, they're like pretty much in trees. Mm-hmm. And so trying to get them to come out of that at night, I can imagine would be pretty difficult.
It is difficult. But so that speaker comes really in handy, but it's more species specific. Right. You know, it's more kudu, ibex, axis. It's more of those specific.
Well, and the people who got the kudu, they want everyone, like you said, everyone wants accuracy. But the people who got that much kudu to do a drone survey and they want to know exactly, they want to know what they have, not a guess.
They do.
And then if a ranch has 300 axis, that's a big difference of, hey, catch 50 and sell them versus if you have 100.
Huge. Yeah. What a lot of people don't understand is ranch owners that are in the business of ranching, whether it's hunting, whether it's exotic breeding, buying and selling, whatever it is, they're in business. Their inventory number, so to speak, is a must-know number, right? And we all know in wildlife, they're animals. I tell people all the time, it's not X-ray vision. But I'm going to tell you, when you book with Skyhunter TX, I'm going to get you as darn close as I can, right? Because the investment's been made, the system and process is absolutely superior, and what that drives is accuracy levels. Like I did a ranch up, where was it? It was near Brady. I did a ranch near Brady, and wrong time of year. I just told him, I was like, this ranch, it's the wrong time of year. I'll be back, because accuracy matters. You know, I don't care who you are. You can't fly Mountain Home in September. Forget it. Mountain Home, Rock Springs, all you're going to count as rocks, right?
Right. So when you say that, you're saying because it's such a rocky, dense area that it's I don't want to say impossible.
It's not impossible.
Really, there's more efficient ways to do it.
It'll drop your accuracy with a drone where it becomes what's the point, right? But I think having the experience from being all over the state, basically, right, running surveys, I can tell people, you're in this topography range, you need to do your survey at this point, right? The hardest part is MLD surveys. And the reason why is because in all the infinite wisdom of Texas Parks and Wildlife, they want them. I think they're due in by September 15th. Well, it's always a mad dash to September 15th, but it's also the hottest time of the year, or, pre-hunting season. And, what's amazing with me, and I think the reason why it's like that is because they want to record fawn crop, but I can look at fawn crop with a drone and the technology we have. I see that in October, November. I can absolutely tell the difference between yearlings and mature does.
Right. Yeah. And I think they're doing that. Like I like how you put it there, infinite wisdom. But anyway, if anyone's ever listened to any of our podcasts, they know I'm not a fan of Texas Parks and Wildlife, but that's another podcast in and of itself. But they're specifically, I think, doing that at the time because the MLD seasons will start October 1st, and they're trying to get accurate numbers to see how many tags that place is going to get. But yeah, I don't know if it's their first season, there's definitely something to
understand
that. But yeah, I just think that there's a relationship that Texas Parks and Wildlife could say like, hey, we understand where you're going for. We have it. And now it'd be nice if we had the drone survey, but like, yeah, it's just something that they need to be better on, I think, in being able to say like building those relationships and doing those. But it is a terrible time to do it. It seems like there's a lot of times that just in general, it's like, who picked this time frame for this survey or this count or this thing? And it's just like, it's not the best. Or like when they're running through like whitetail breeders, they'll be like, oh, my inspection survey is in May. And like, oh, you're going to run all of your animals through in May or in August or right before fawning season or all this other stuff. And it's like, that's not, or let me run all my whitetail bucks when they're halfway grown out in velvet.
Exactly.
So, but yeah. So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but so you got an $18,000 camera for layman's terms, and that's just the camera. That has nothing to do with the drone.
Yeah. The battery, what's crazy is it takes me 4 batteries to fly basically most ranches. We have on-site charging. We have a generator going where we literally up and down, just like a helicopter. We're coming down, Cole's refueling, jumping on the screen. By the time he says go, and we're in headcoms talking, our ranch owners are all in headcoms talking to us so they can kind of get the full experience of what we're looking at and looking for and why we're flying the way we're flying at that moment. But people are blown away when I tell them how much those batteries are right now. Those batteries are $1,800 a piece.
Right.
Not including the charger box. Yep. And I can charge 3 at one time. So we run 4 of those. I mean, just start doing the math, right? We run 4 of those. We run an S1 Spotlight. We have an H30, an H30T, most expensive thermal camera on the planet. And, the S1, I think I have to look, but I think it's about $4,000 right now. When most, you can get a DJI AL1, which is a spotlight for, more of a novice style drone. More of a novice style drone would be, the M4, the 4T drone, which I see people doing surveys with all the time. And I'm like, that's definitely not the drone to be running surveys with.
Right. Well, why is that?
The camera specs on them are good. They're not 1280, right? They're good. They're not great. Mostly because the reason why we don't use them is if it's blowing 40, I got to fly. I'm booked, back to back to back. When I step on the Droptine Studios ranch and that weather is less than ideal, maybe it's hot, maybe it's windy, maybe it's wet,
right.
I got to fly because I can't move around the schedule to turn around and come back and fly you later on. Right. I've got to get it done. The wind is a big thing. One thing that a lot of people don't understand about the 4Ts as well, not the 4TD, right? So remember the D part is that we'll be flying a few M4TDs coming up in this season for certain tools for certain times. But the 4T, the wind rating is a lot lower on them. Well, practical. No matter what it says on the box, I don't care what it says on the box. I care what it does when it's in the air, right?
Because that's the part is they'll say like, oh, this Ford F-150, when we put it on a machine in a building and rotate tires, it gets 25 miles a gallon. It's like, no, it does not.
Same thing.
Yeah, because we'll have people ask us, they're like, well, how long does a battery last? I'm like, how hot is it? How cold is it? Is the wind 20 miles an hour? Or is it 40 miles an hour? Because up 300 feet in the air, it's probably double that.
It is, yes. So the one big thing I think the misconception of those drones are on the DJI 4Ts that I see people doing or trying to run surveys with is the ability to fly in that weather, but they're not IP55 rated. They're IP35 rated.
What does that mean?
That means they're not for rain. They can get a little damp, but this I can fly in a downpour.
Really?
Last year I flew a survey in pouring rain and snow flurries. And believe it or not, it was actually South Texas. It was where you would think there wouldn't be that weather. It's I always mess this up. Goldlaid, G-O-L-A-I-D.
Goldthwait?
Not Goldthwait. No, because that's where the no. G-O-L-A-I-D.
Goliad.
Goliad. I know that it says the Goliad, but it's Goliad. Yeah, we were down there doing a kudu survey. Gentleman, we met him at the Star S show. Actually, where I met you.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't quite know how many kudu I had. And I was like, buddy, you have the best problem.
Right.
I wish I didn't know how many kudu I had.
Yeah. How many drones do I have?
No. So he wound up booking with us and we went down and it was miserable. I get the question too, well, why do we have to stay up all night? Why do we have to fly at night? Well, the Earth's crust gets really hot during the day and turns into one blanket thermal image.
Yeah.
But there are times of the year when I can fly during the day. I try not to book surveys on that. That's whenever I'll go out and we'll go hog hunting with the drone or something. That's when I do more recreational stuff for us to go have fun. If it were a daytime situation, because they're so unpredictable. So I need a low cloud ceiling, I need cool weather, and I need the sun not to peek out of those clouds, right? If I have that, then I've got really great daytime thermal weather.
Right.
If I don't have that, it's a nightmare.
Well, and you can't pre-book that either, right? Like in 3 months, I can guarantee you after 9 o'clock, it'll be dark. Mm-hmm. And 3 months from now, I can't tell you what the weather's going to be like.
Exactly. I did a ranch up near Dallas, and I booked it during the day because I looked at the weather. And to be honest with you, we were tired, and we've been on the road a lot. And I was like, man, the weather looks great to do this one. We're going to roll up there, and we're going to go into that ranch. We're going to run a daytime survey. Little treat for us, right? So we're not out all night. Pull up, unload, Skyforce 1 or Can-Am. And we get to this, we get to our flying spot. We pull out the first thing. We look up, and it's literally turned into Bluebird Sky Day. And we sat on this poor guy's ranch for 5.5 hours like a bunch of hobos waiting on weather. So, I just don't book them during the day anymore.
Right.
It's too unpredictable.
Yeah. So another thing I want to talk about, we've kind of hinted at it, is pricing, right? Mm-hmm. So there are other people out there.
Yes.
But let's before we go into the difference in what you get with someone with a drone with a drone thermal survey versus Sky Hunter, let's get into what do your deliverables look like?
Yeah. That's one thing that we really stand out on deliverables. So we don't upcharge anything. We don't charge you to turn the spotlight on or to turn the speaker on or to drop down and look at it. We don't charge you extra for anything. When you book with us, our deliverables are this. You're going to get a flight map that shows you everywhere everywhere the drone flew on the ranch. It'll have all the white lines behind it, and it'll have all the GPS points on it. I'm actually working on technology with a company out of the UK right now, and that's a whole nother investment side of what makes us better. But where we can import those, and then a client would be able to go onto that map and click that photo or click that diamond and see the photo of the animal and where it was at that time and all of that.
That'll be cool.
I know. It's sizable and we're working on it.
So just to be clear, that's not something yet, but in the works.
Not something yet, but we're definitely working towards that. And we're also we're getting ready to start working with a very, very popular Texas scoring app that I will not name. And we're in the early stages of, can this work? How would it work? And we're going to explore it. Right. So that's TBD.
Right.
Going back to your original question, deliverables. So with Skyhunter TX, as I said before, we upcharge for nothing. What you pay is, what you pay. We'll give you that flight map with those GPS points on it, right? Where you can see where the drone flew on your property, so it's accountable. We give you photos of your noteworthy animals on your report, which we offer you a written report that has all your counts on them, so you can keep it year over year to compare counts. And it'll have a synopsis of what we see from the air, because a lot of people don't get to see their ranch from the air like that. So we write a little synopsis about, just the land, and some people read it. Some people probably, are like, well, it's my ranch, I see it. But we like to write it on there. So we do the count on there, and then photos and noteworthy animals. And then one thing that's a big deliverable that people don't understand, and you running video probably understand this, is our video deliverable. So our video deliverable, we take all the flight footage that we get from that ranch at that time, and we condense it down where you're not looking at cactus or rocks or anything, right? We edit all of that out. We put it on a private link on YouTube, right, on the back end, and then we share that link. And the only way that is viewable is if the landowner shares with other people. They have that option. So you get flight map, written survey, photos of noteworthy animals, and a full-length video of your ranch.
So
survey.
Let's kind of go into pricing. Let's what is the general consensus of the quote-unquote normal? Because I think we've already established, one, what you get with Skyhunter.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the equipment you're essentially leasing out by coming out and your time.
Mm-hmm.
But what is, because that's one thing you and I have discussed at multiple trade shows, and I said it earlier, and it's the truth. It's kind of funny, but it's the truth. People say, well, you're overpriced. And both of us go, man, there's not enough days on the calendar.
Agreed.
So what is the general price point of where people start, not Skyhunter, general, and how do they charge? And then how do you charge?
So I think generally speaking, we all charge by the acre, right? And I really want people to really understand that everybody is trying to do a good job. Nobody owns a drone survey company to go out there and say, I'm going to do a bad job for this ranch owner, right? Everybody is trying to do a great job. I think when you're buying $1 an acre, which most people are, right? Let's say their minimum, or that's where I hear a lot of people, $1.25, right? And they go down from there, right? They don't go up. That's their starting, and they're going down from there.
And then I guess they just have a minimum, like $500 or
one of our competitors have a minimum of $800. Our minimum is $1,250, and that is just for whitetail, right? We count everything that we see. So when we say whitetail for $1,250, that gets you about 700 acres and below, correct? We're still going to count your coyotes. We're going to count, any bobcats. We're going to count everything we see. But if it's a whitetail ranch, that's where we're at, $1,250. If it's whitetail plus exotics, our minimum is $1,650, right? I think, I've heard people's minimum at 500. I've heard people's minimum at 800. There's no organization. Our organization in the market is we're flying the best. We have the largest level of system and process investment, right? Equipment investment. I'm never going to be your $500 to $800 guy. Right. I think you've got a $500 to $800 guy, or that you had fly a ranch and do some stuff at one point. And again, I'm sure did, a great job, right? Skyhunter is just a different level into the premium level of investment equipment, system, process, kind of like Droptine, So going back to pricing, most of them $1.25 to $1 an acre, and they're going to drop from there. I start at $1.75 an acre, right? And my breaks go $1.75 will get you up to we'll get you to 2,000 acres. You hit 2,000 acres and beyond, I'm going to $1.50. You get up to 3,000, right? You get up to 4,000 or 3,000 to 4,000, I'm going to drop to $1.25 an acre, right? And then anything above 4,000 is custom, correct? And then that's when we're going to bring other teams in, which we'll talk about the expansion and growth of Skyhunter as we get going here.
So how many hours does it take to do and I would assume that's also why you would have to bring in another team, because you can't do that all in one night.
Well, our challenge is even though we're the most expensive, we're busy, right? And now we're busy with, I have a rancher that has 4 ranches they manage. Well, one of them is 16,000 acres. Time-wise, to service all of our clients, I can't be on your ranch for 5 days flying. So now this season, I'm really proud to announce that we're going to have 3 other teams in the air. All trained. We're doing 3 training sessions out on a ranch for the weekend. Everybody's learning the Skyhunter way. I'll be on site with some of them as they're flying, but now we'll be able to go in and launch 4 drones or 3 drones in the air on 3 different teams. So now someone's taking this 2,000 or 3,000. I'm taking 2,000 or 3,000. Another team is taking this, right? All done with the pilot, co-pilot, Skyhunter way, correct? And then all using a technology where we can actually see all of our drones in the air and actually watch them in real time, dropping pins on animals, so we know where everybody is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the other part too, is not only are you getting the assurance of, hey, I've got a large property, I can get this done. Because to a point, people don't necessarily care that you get it done in a day. They care about their time. Because they're like, if I'm not out there, I don't care how long it takes you. Just don't shoot an animal while you're out there or whatever else.
Right, yeah.
But if you are a business owner and you don't want to be known as the Motel 6 of thermal drones, and you're doing all this, it also is going to give the owner assurance of like, hey, this is a legitimate business. Because if people are already saying you're overpriced, which I tell everyone, you can't say I'm overpriced till you hired me.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what I'm providing.
Agreed.
But if you're doing that and you're about to expand by 66% or whatever that is, from
about,
2 people to now 6 people on your team, so 3 full rigs rolling.
Yeah.
That's the point of people saying, I think it's ignorance when they say, well, you're too expensive. And I need to look, I'll find the quote and find it, but it just pretty much said like, money is no longer an object whenever value exceeds the dollar amount.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, in this industry that I'm in, and I knew it was going to happen, right? I've seen what's happened in other country, or not countries, but other areas of the country where, especially where drone deer recovery is legalized.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's always going to be the drone in the box, beer money kind of people that are like, oh, come fly your ranch, that's always going to be out there, and God bless them. Go for it. If you can make a buck, go make it.
Just have a license.
Just have a license. But when Skyhunter really comes in is And I don't want to be. So when we started Sky Hunter, we started on 3 ranches that we had full reign to fly on. To give you an idea, there was probably about $2.5 million of animal stock on these ranches. 20 species difference in all of them. And I have a photo of us with a lawn chair sitting in the back of the Can-Am with myself and Cole and ready to just throw the thing in the trash and leave. Like, it wasn't a good survey. And we weren't there to survey. We were there to learn, perfect our craft, and go to market with something that worked. Because showing up with a 7-inch screen, right, and 2,000 acres in front of you and thinking you're going to fly that and give somebody a great survey, I am here to tell you I am sorry, it does not work. I know it doesn't work because we tried to do it. Because I wouldn't have spent $170,000 in investment if it worked for $20,000, right? That's terrible math.
Right.
You wouldn't have the lenses that the gentleman showed me that are, 2 foot long for thousands of dollars if you could have bought the short lens ones and it worked, right? It did not work. It was not accurate. And let me tell you the difference in client. When you're dealing with I don't want to say the ranch is on air because I don't have the right to say it. But when you're dealing with some of these higher end ranches, right, they know what they have. You're there to verify what was born and what was added, right?
Right.
They have a solid, strong idea of what is on that ranch. They've got ranch managers. They have crews. They have, they see them every day. Well, if you're coming up 40, 30% short on their number, you might as well pack your stuff up. They're never going to call you again.
Right.
Right. Now, if I look at them and say, hey, you're forcing me to fly this for MLD, for a fact it's hot as heck outside, right? I have to fly it. We have to get a count. And this is going to be a 30% count, right? We've had accuracy up to 2% off, right? But it's got to be perfect conditions. Everything's got to be perfect for that.
Right.
That brings me to the point of people having realistic expectations. I had a gentleman call me that said, well, I've been flying them helicopters. I'm going to get me a drone survey. And I'm like, well, yes, sir. We'd love to help you out with that. Can I ask you why you want a drone survey? Well, y'all can see everything. And I was like, there goes the neighborhood. Right? Because we don't see everything. There is a margin of error. And people ask me all the time what the margin of error is on their property. When I fly it, I can tell you. We try to hover around 20%. You go to Mountain Home in September, forget about it, right? But if you got to get an MLD survey done, it's certainly going to be a lot better in your spotlight survey. I can promise you that. It'll be as accurate as you can get at that time of year, right? With the drone. And it's going to be better than other methods of doing it. But, now I go back to Mountain Home in October, totally different story. And I know this, and I bring up Mountain Home and I bring up Rock Springs in that area because I have personal experience of a ranch or two that I've reflown because we did fly it for MLD. It wasn't tight enough. And we came back October, November and flew again. One of them being the Christian Alliance camp. I always kind of mess up their name, but they're right across from the YO. So, and that's a charity that is near and dear to my heart that I support. And we fly their surveys for free every year as a donation for them. I had learned a hard lesson on their property. First 300 acres went great. The second 700 acres, too hot, too rocky, too much. And we came out and flew it. I think we flew it in February, which is a great time to fly that property.
Right.
So it's not all created equal.
Yeah, for sure. So to go back real quick, we kind of went on the one last thing I want to talk about pricing is when you were coming up with your pricing model, because that's one other thing that you can't control. As we mentioned, you can kind of do some in the day, but it's just not ideal. So it wouldn't make a whole business model off that. How did you come up with that price point?
Well, because I didn't feel anybody would pay $2.25 an acre. Maybe, no, coming up with a pricing model was because I think a business, a true professional business is priced where they're the long-term solution. I want to be here year over year over year. I'm not doing this because it's college beer money, right? I'm doing this because I want a sustainable professional business that you're my client for the next 15 years, the next 10 years. And if I go out there charging $1 an acre, it's, first of all, we can't. Second of all, it's just not a sustainable growth model business. Financially, it just won't sustain our growth.
Right.
It won't. I can't hire a Droptine Studios to shoot marketing or, tell everybody that Sky Hunter's the best drone wildlife survey company, in the state of Texas. I wouldn't be able to do that. Why? Because we're a premium service, correct? So what about gas? What about vehicle maintenance? What about all of the things that go with owning a business?
Right.
That when people say you're too expensive, I'm like, have you seen the cost of the tires I just put on my truck last week because I ran, all over Texas?
Right.
So I wanted to set my pricing where it was a sustainable business model that I felt would sustain for the long term.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the going out of business guy.
Yeah. And that's one thing for us. And I mean, relatively thermal drone surveys are new, right? Like their helicopters have been around forever, but thermal drone surveys really haven't been but 5 years or so, give or take.
Yeah.
And
where they really, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but that's one thing that we run into is people claim that we're expensive, but in reality, like I would talk to another guy who is a very much professional, puts Droptine to shame in some areas, but he goes in and he goes, well, whatever I'm bringing on is 10% of my equipment plus my time plus expenses plus all this.
Right.
Well, if we were to do that, we bring, depending if the client tells us what we need, we'll bring certain equipment. I mean, we've got $500,000 in gear or
Agreed.
all this. And so it's like, if we're going to show up and let's just say our main run and gun deal is anywhere between 30 and 40 grand or $30,000-$40,000 for that, that's $3,000 to $4,000 in equipment. If I was to charge his model, that's just 10% of the equipment we're using.
Right.
And so then that's just for the wildlife. Well, then you need me to do drone, different equipment, different price. Then you need me to do real estate, different equipment, different price. So that's where a lot of people, I think, in our industry it's still so new to market or to do thermal drone surveys that they say, I think the words that they're saying is that's expensive, but what in reality they're saying is, I didn't think it would cost that much.
I would 100% agree with you. I think that drones have always been looked at as toys until recently, right? They're no toys, right? There's this technology to do surveys really launched with the M30T. Well, the M30T was where I felt like you could do a professional survey and get away with it, was the M30T. We flew them. They're amazing drones. We've since upgraded and moved on. I'll tell you, the other day, I said it out loud. I was flying a ranch and I had Cole in the earphones and I was like, this is an M30T ranch. A lot of topography, a lot of updraft and wind. Just the right tool for the right job. Like you don't show up with one lens, right?
Right.
we're not going to show up with one drone at times, right?
100%. But yeah, so that's just the point of a lot of this is so new that the people are saying it's expensive, but in reality, we're just trying to, one, run a business, two, provide assurance. Like, you don't want to show up and someone's like, what do we do now? And you're like, that's what I paid you for.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just once that people see the value in it, and I think that's where Sky Hunter truly is separated, is the whole experience. Being able to have you and your family and have headpieces and watch the whole thing and do whatever it is.
Right.
It's such a different dynamic to, like, because what I did, and like I had Macy Ledbetter go out there, and I was more or less, I told you, trying to prove a point to just, hey, let's get a survey. We've got 180 acres, do it real quick, low fence. But we did that, and it was one, before we met you, but two, I wouldn't want to waste your time with it because there's really not that much out there.
Understood.
And so that's one thing I wanted to talk is, or get your opinion on, is at what point do you recommend that new inquiries come in and you say, hey, this isn't for, like, we wouldn't be a good fit?
You're just
recommend you to this person.
What's up, Droptine degenerates? Do you need a new website? Did this ad make you laugh? We're over here just trying to figure out what ads work and what's going to grab your attention. So if this made you laugh, comment below. And if you need a new website, head over to droptinestudios.com, and we would be honored to build you a new website that's going to represent your business.
Agreed. And I mean, I have one or two guys that I would recommend on a job like that, you know, where it doesn't really fit the Sky Hunter mold. You know, it's also scalability, or, you know, it's investment into what you're going to get. I mean, you know, you don't need Sky Hunter to go fly that, right? Where you need Sky Hunter is you need Sky Hunter in your high fence, really dialed in operations where you're buying, selling, because most of our clients are making this decision.
Right.
They're making three things. What am I buying? What am I selling? And what am I harvesting? That's what they want to know. And when there's a level of dollars that are attached to those decisions, that's when Sky Hunter comes in.
Right.
If we did, actually, I did a lot more leases than I ever did before. Guys with deer leases. And you would think in those scenarios, you know, but they wanted to know. You know, I did a 1,500 acre one in College Station, a couple of other ones this year. So to say who needs Sky Hunter and who doesn't, I think it's I think it's people making business decisions.
Right.
Would be where you're going to pay a premium. And then there's others who want to be the best, want to raise the best, and want to harvest the best, and want to have a, you know, truly amazing management program in place and have the data and details behind that management program.
Right.
That's what we provide. And if they're at that level, then they're definitely going to want Sky Hunter.
Yeah, because that takes away acreage, right? Like, you can have 180 acres, and if you want to make those decisions and you want to do those things and you want to pay $1,600 and whatever it is to say, I want this because I'm running a business and I want X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Then it doesn't matter, because then you can also have a 14,000 acre place that goes, I don't care.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
And then do you do anything else outside of the hunting, like high fence? Do you do cattle or any other?
You know, I haven't. I think with the drones, I'm going to grab a water.
Yeah.
I think with the drones, one thing we did not want to be was hodgepodge. We didn't want to be, oh, well, today we're wildlife surveyors. The next day we're cattle pen surveyors.
Right.
There's some really cool technology out of South Africa for that. I'm not above it, by the way.
Right.
I'll fly anything that pays, basically. But when you talk about on the cattle side, and I know you guys were just at CattleCon, right? Which I didn't even know was a thing. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's huge.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was, I would say, probably the largest show we've done. And I'm interested to see how it pans out, because, you know, these trade shows, it's not an immediate return. It can be.
Yeah. But
we'll get a phone call, I guarantee it, in 6 months from someone who met us there, or we'll go back next year and they'll go, okay, I wanted to make sure you were legit. But yeah, it was big enough that it was definitely our most expensive show by 2 to 3 times what we normally spend.
Right.
And we doubled our booth for next year. Like, we got a 20 by 20.
Wow, it's incredible.
So yeah, it's just a different industry trying to figure out. But again, we're not looking for, again, I'm not above anything, you know, I need money gets rid of a lot of my expenses. And,
right.
But that's the point where we're trying to get to is going like, man, if we could just find, like I told you upstairs, I didn't even realize, because that's a great part about going into new industries. I don't know who's who.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who the Wildlife Partners is. I don't know who the NT Exotics is. I don't know who's who. And I met a guy, and then I got another email from another agency trying to get us to come, and they used him as an example, and he had like 200,000 head of cattle.
Right.
And I don't know what that means, but I know it's not cheap to have 200,000 head of cattle. So yeah, we're definitely trying to just pinpoint and find those people. And like our objective of that show was try to make enough money to pay off the expenses.
Agreed.
But let's look for those long-term sustainable clients who are going to come in month after month.
And I don't think the generalized consumer that's buying a drone survey or hiring Droptine Studios understand the sheer amount of investment it takes for us to be on the road and do trade. We do 16 trade shows a year. And I know Alpha, the owner of Alpha Rack out of Russellville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that poor kid, I don't think he's come off the road yet. I mean, they're in the sporting clays. They're at all the hunting. They're, when you look at Droptine Studios, I think I've seen you a lot. And even if you're not on display there, you're usually there talking to clients, keeping your relationship, stuff like that. But I mean, people don't understand. We're in the truck 3 hours, takes us a day to set up. We get in, we get all set up. We've got hotel expense. This is all part of running a business.
Right.
And if you don't see another survey company there, well, then maybe they should raise their prices so they could actually come and join promote and join join us at join us at Texas Trophy Hunter, join us at
any of the 14,
any of what's,
because that's the other side is, I mean, it is a investment, but I mean, man, it's a wear and tear on the team. It's wear and tear on the family, my kids, the whole kit and caboodle. It's a lot of investment. And I think that's why I'll try to go through, like, honestly, I was on TikTok the other day and I saw a family promoting beef and they were out of Texas, and we run some stuff for clients and we know what it is. And so strictly out of trying to support, I bought a couple $100 of beef. Now, I just shot a kudu. I've got 300 pounds at the processor.
Right.
I don't need the meat.
Right.
But I saw it and I was just like, I'm hoping that they see that and they go, we made a sale on social media, or we did this. And it was one of those things where I know that's going to make their day. Because I know what it's like running stuff on social media. I know what it's like going to the trade shows. I know what it's like doing that. So yes, from a business standpoint, but also from a human standpoint, I'm like, man, I want to help support this person.
I agree.
And so like even trying to find people who do trade shows, if I'm like, man, if I'm going to buy it, I might as well wait another month to go to Dallas Safari Club or Texas Trophy Hunters, and I'm going to book the service there. But make sure I tell them, like, I've been seeing what you're doing, because you don't want them to stop. I'm a marketer. You don't want you to stop your annual marketing. Right. And because someone booked here, but maybe they saw you online and that's where they did their homework, and then they met you in person and that's where they booked. Yeah. So, and it's all combined.
I agree. I think being present in the market, having a sustainable company means you have dollars to be present in the market. I don't think people understand what marketing costs. I don't think 100%. They have an idea. And what's really hard about marketing is everybody will tell you 50% of it works. You just don't know what 50, and, with a lot of things you can quantify and, and do your best of secret words. If you see this ad or you saw us at this trade show or that trade show, we don't know it works. I mean, we'll ask you if you call Sky Hunter TX, we're going to say, how'd you hear about us? And by the way, it's so valuable that people say, oh, well, we found you on Google or whatever, because that's probably, as a company, one of the single most important questions I ask them when directly when they call. Right. Thank you for calling Sky Hunter TX, and then they say something, and the first thing I say, well, how'd you hear about us? Yep.
Well, and I'll ask that too, is like going in and we'll put it on forums or as much as we can anywhere else going, hey, what did you do to hear or see? And I've had people say, I've watched you for years. I've had people say, this guy just told me to call you. I've had it where they're just like, I don't remember. I just, like, we had another company that they just Googled marketing agency in Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God they found us.
Right.
And so that's where there's some things, but I'm not paying for Google words yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where so many of it, like I just had an inquiry the other day and a client and thank God they're asking questions up front, but they were like, well, provide these stats and what's your booking rate and all this stuff. And I had to like break it down, but also set that expectation up front is going, we do not guarantee sales.
Right.
But neither do trade shows.
No,
we
they
guarantee traffic. We guarantee we can get you in front of a certain audience. We guarantee we can do this. And then I even flipped it on them. I said, like, let's say drone surveys. Let's say I was running your stuff, but on your website you labeled all drone surveys start at $10,000.
Right.
Is that my fault you didn't book anything? I got 1 million people to go to your website. No shit, no one booked.
Right.
You're starting at $10,000 for a drone survey.
Exactly.
So that's what we try to tell those clients is like, hey, like there's so much more. We're not like, we're not a representative of your company. We're trying to help your representatives get more eyeballs on you.
Right.
And so we can also make you look professional and we can try to track those things. Like I was talking to Rachel last week and I was like, man, Rachel, we've got a lot of inquiries. Like we've got a lot of people following up and, part of me even, and this is a marketing person saying this,
right.
What is it? Is it because we've now done trade shows for 10 years and people see that? Is it because, and more than that, but then is it because we're posting on social media 365 days a year?
Right.
Is it because the team is growing? Is it because we're doing the podcast and people are subliminally like,
right,
man, we should hire Droptine or look at the people, the professionals they're talking to. Is it because people come by the office and they're like, man, I didn't expect this.
Right.
And so like, we don't know, but what I do know is one, I can afford it. And two, I'm glad the phone's ringing.
Exactly.
So why would I change anything? But
I agree.
But my biggest thing is when I have clients go through and do it, won't see, like I probably did trade shows for 5 years before I could pay for all the shows I did in 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Like it took a long time to do it, but now we go to trade shows and we're signing the biggest contracts we ever have and doing this stuff. But I'd say the same thing as people with marketing. I'm like, don't just do one drone survey. Don't just do one campaign.
Right.
Like at least budget for 2, if not 3 years. Because if I only do it for 1 month or 1 year, you're going to look and go, well, what is this?
Yeah.
Like we have to have something to compare to. We have to have something to analyze and something to how do we get better and how do we change and let's pivot here. And, oh, well, that didn't work, but let's try it again. But so many people are just like, I want to give you $100 and you give me $250. Like, well, if I did that, I would charge a hell of a lot more.
Well, you know what I try to tell people in social media, and yet, as you said, I've built and been a part of other companies and, and own other companies. So I think people's misconception is exactly that. I'm going to give you $250 to Droptine Studios and you're going to give me $500 back, whatever. And, I tell people all the time, yes, I post on TikTok. Yes, I post on Facebook, and yes, I post on Instagram, which, by the way, I'm going to throw myself a shameless plug.
Absolutely.
My Instagram following is terrible. Like, it's so sad. I don't know what I got to do to get somebody to like a post or follow us on there. Like, TikTok is great. We love it. We put a little video out. We think they're funny, some of them. But Facebook, people comment and, look at our stuff. Instagram,
All right. Well, people don't even do what I ask them to do on this podcast. But we're going to try this out. If anyone that listens to this podcast goes and follows Skyhunter TX on Instagram and comments Droptine,
right,
I'll give a $250 gift card away to one of the top people who do that. We'll say the first 10 people who do it, I'll give away $250 to one of those people.
Wow.
We'll see if they do it. Because then if they do that, because I ask everyone, caveat, you also have to comment on this post where you listen to it.
Right.
So it's 2-factor verification. You have to comment on here. And when you comment on the Droptine Studios podcast, you have to comment Skyhunter TX. And then when you go to his Instagram, you have to follow him and do that. And if you're not following the podcast and if you're not following him on Instagram, you don't win.
My daughter, it's I'm blessed to have, beautiful kids and I my 18 or my 19-year-old who's in college in Austin, she's all the time like, Dad, you got to do it like this and like that. And I'm like, she put this music to one of our videos and I just thought to myself, I was like, branch owner's going to listen to that music for 2 seconds, but I don't know.
Right.
I will tell you, I think people have a huge misconception and this is just my point of view in hiring someone to market social media. I think people should absolutely have a social media marketing person hired. Period. Yeah. Managing in a business your own social media, if you want to get no results, whether you're hiring Droptine Studios, which I think you should, but we're talking about it.
Right. We're gonna go to lunch after this.
Yeah, we're talking about it because I do it. I have someone from my other businesses that's kind of outside of the world of what we're doing here within wildlife. But I tell people all the time, I want people to know my brand. I want them to know my name. I want them to I don't want to be a stranger in their market. But if I think that I'm going to hire Droptine Studios to do my social media marketing, right, and I'm going to get $5 from that, I might as well forget about it, right? I just don't know that social media drives sales. I think it, and you may have a point on this different than me, but I think it drives awareness. I think it drives branding. I think it drives being familiar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean in the market?
Right.
But do I think if I put this post out there that I was on Droptine Studios today, that they're gonna call me and say, "Hey, you were on Droptine Studios. Can we book our ranch?" I don't think that ultimately turns into dollars, but I do think it turns into a ton of awareness.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the twofold is like we've had people on the podcast call and say, I booked $150,000 from this, and it goes, it was only within the last week of the podcast going live.
Right.
So they attributed to it, which also which
who is
you
awesome.
Are. And if you were listening to this, because I know you listen every week, you said you'd sponsor because you made so much money doing it.
Right.
So I guess if you hear the new sponsor, Daniel, this is where you can plug it. No, but yeah, so right. I mean, that's where we do that, but it definitely does come to like having a target audience, mm-hmm. and it does need repetition. Right. But overall, like even when we do social media, we ask a lot of people, we go, what's your goals and objectives? Mm-hmm. Because then we'll even try to define, hey, this post is informational. Mm-hmm. This post is to go to my current audience.
Agreed.
This post is for future audience. How can I make it more salesy? And so then, notice one of 3 of those was sales.
Yeah.
Now, we definitely have our clients on opposite sides of the spectrum where they go, every post needs to be salesy. Every post needs to drive dollars. And then we go, okay, well, that might need to lead to paid campaigns. That's not just social media.
Yeah.
But then the other side of it is we have other companies that are like, we don't care if we get sales, great. But we just want people to see us. But they know people that see you leads to attention, or traffic leads to attention leads to sales.
It does.
But that's if you're ready to make the sale. And if they mm-hmm. reach out and if you're approachable, and there's
mm-hmm.
too many variables that go into it. But
right.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, thanks for the plug for me. But
no, I'm just saying, I mean, I think that I think with Sky Hunter, I always want to, whether someone books with us or books with somebody else, right? I always want them to at least know who we were. Right. That's all. Just, whether you bought from us or you didn't, do you know who we are? Right. And if that is out there, then we've done well.
Right. So kind of looking through, I mean, I know we've kind of jumped all over, but I guess let me ask you this is, we've talked about your ideal clientele. We've talked about how there's other people going there. What does the future look like for Sky Hunter, like the next 3 to 5 years?
I live my life by a 1, 3, and a 5-year plan. It's funny that you said it today when we were walking up the stairs or we were talking, and those are the people that I love to be around. Because those people have something to talk about, right? Because it's 1, 3, and 5. starting this year when my one is I'm going to put 2 other teams to 3 other teams in the air. I have David Walker, who is going to be heading up my South Texas team. One nice thing is I think whenever you launch a business that, that's been around for 2 years so far, and you start to expand, who do you look towards? You look to the people that you trust and you care about and that you want to watch succeed. And I'm getting to do that with David Walker for my South Texas market. He's based out of Corpus. He will be Sky Hunter, South Texas. Then I've got a North Texas Clinton up there who's going to kind of head up the North Texas side. Christy will fly, inadvertently as she kind of handles sales. She's a licensed pilot as well. Remember, they're all flying the Sky Hunter method with their co-pilots. 3 years from now, I would like to have 10 mobile units running the state. I think that would be my goal. And I want to see 10 people set themselves up for their own business. So whenever I do this for people, I don't do this as this is somebody's basically their own box, their own business. So they're able to fly under the Sky Hunter name. It's not a franchise. So let's get that dirty word right out of the room, because but basically what it is so David and I talked, and I said, hey David, I really need a guy in South Texas. We're going to expand. I don't mind driving an hour and a half, 2 hours, but me and Cole are doing 4.5 hour stints, flying all night, sleeping in, on the side of the road, truck stops. So
right.
I just said, I'm going to break it up a little bit. 2.5 hours be my max, 2.5 hours for other people around them. But Sky Hunter, whenever we put David Walker in there, Clinton in the air, Thompson Wagner in the air, it's basically like having your own little business, right? Run through our CRM, run through our marketing platform. They're at our, at the trade shows we've already paid for as Sky Hunter, right? So they can be there promoting their area. We're doing we're lucky enough to have ranches that welcome us for on-site training and, flight weekends and going through new technology, how to even fly 16,000 acres, and know where everybody's drone is. Well, there's software and there's a way to do it. But if you don't click one little box in there, you won't see anybody, right? If nobody tells you the box is there, you'll never know it unless you dig through tutorial after tutorial. So 135, 5 years, I would like to expand outside the state of Texas.
Yeah,
I would. I'd like to hit Kansas, Kansas being one of them, some other markets that I think potentially have some good growth rate. I didn't know that Florida had a strong exotic market. I couldn't believe that. One of my friends owns, they do captures and stuff. And he was like, yeah, I got to go to Florida to pick up these bongos. I'm like, Florida? I'm born and raised in Florida. I was like, I didn't even know there was bongos in Florida. Did you know that?
Yeah, at Star S, this last one of the highest lots was a bongo lot, and they were in Florida. Now, I think they're based in Florida, and they have like a 20,000 acre ranch in Texas, but they have an whole separate entity in Florida.
Really? I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, and I mean, the certain species would do really well out there, like bongo. Like you think about the marsh, the hot weather, that's how it is, like where they're from in Africa.
Right.
And so, yeah, but yeah, I talked to someone last week or 2 weeks ago, and they were delivering a whole trailer of Blessbach all the way to Florida.
Really? Huh.
Imagine what that delivery fee was.
Well, what's funny about travel expenses, I laugh whenever someone that's done a helicopter survey will say to us, well, $1.25 an acre. I'm like, you just paid $4.85 for someone to to drag a helicopter there, and you're griping about $1.25 a mile. I'm like, that's not even covering the wear on the tires. Like, give me a break here.
Oh, for sure.
So, anyways, that's all back to that pricing stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we talked about having a panel up here because I think a lot of people have either built businesses like you have and then taken it into this industry, but there's other people who are just like, I've been winging it for 40 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. And so having like a panel up here to, whether it's to educate the younger guys or because the biggest thing I think with my team is every single one of them are equipped to do their own thing, but none of them want to do what I do with the paperwork and the phone calls and the insurance and all these stupid meetings. And that's a whole other side of business. That could be a whole podcast on its own, is how to run a business properly. And it's a lot if you do it right.
It's a ton. And, with Sky Hunter, I think one of my biggest 5-year goals is to watch a lot of guys have the leg up to be entrepreneurial, but have the support of Sky Hunter as the backbone who does the heavy lifting, like what you and I would do in a company, right? But have the marketing and all of that. Because I'm not telling them when to be at the ranch. I'm not telling them, I'm telling them how to talk to their clients. I'm telling them how to set expectation. I'm telling them how to, work with their co-pilot, how to look at a piece of property. We're giving them, all of this training and everything that goes with it. But these are people that I know,
Right.
But I can't wait to see them grow, their own area, where they have, even if we're not doing the big trade show at the time, they have a nice banner, they have a nice table skirt, they have great marketing materials, and go say, who you are, what you do, how you're the best, and how do I get a hold of you, or how they get a hold of them, and really watch some of these guys who would not necessarily be able to take the lift that I took financially to do all of this, but piggyback on that and watch them succeed. And I think as a business owner, the best thing is watching others succeed. And I also like to watch other companies succeed. It's kind of weird, but I do. I don't think I'm the only drone guy that's going to succeed in this market. Like, I don't, but I think positivity, I think being blessed, I think I think a lot of that thing goes into that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, because I remember when I first started out, there was an older gentleman, and his name was Dan Verips, and there was definitely, he was running the market and he had it all, but there was some guys who would just look and go, well, Austin and Dan hate each other. And I was like, I've never even met Dan. But like, I'm the same thing, as I think there's enough to go around for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in rising tides bring up all ships.
They do.
And so I remember I was traveling around at one point and I called Dan and I was like, I don't even think he had my number. So I was like, hey, Dan, can I stop by your studio? And he also just texted me and he's like, yeah, what's up? I was like, I don't know. I've heard I've hated you for years. So I want to stop by and introduce myself and actually get to know you. And it was great because after that, we were able to talk shop and talk price and, hey, what do you charge for this? And how does this work? And we were able to benefit off of that rather than, but I just don't know why everyone's like, you're a competitor, you must hate each other. And it's like, no, we can run a business and still enjoy each other's company, but also we can help each other. Hey, this guy did this, watch out. Or, hey, don't do this because here's what I, had a problem with. So I think the aspect of having that mindset versus like, I'm going to destroy everyone, no one else can succeed besides me, will ultimately make you and whoever else successful.
Well, we, one of my bigger competitors in the market, they're definitely a cheaper option, right? They were actually right in my backyard, they were asked to go to this, it was a cattle rancher raiser thing. And we, do a video and speak to them or whatever. And I had done something before that. So I called the guy running and I'm like, what are you doing here? I was like, you're in my backyard. Like, throw me a bone here. Like, what are you doing? And I said, fine. I was like, all right, whatever. Fine. I'll buy a ticket. And I think it were like $8 or $10. I was like, I'll come. And the funniest thing, he says, well, I don't want to have any trouble out of you guys. Well, and I'm like, sir, I'm running a professional company. Like, I'm not, there's going to be people that do what we do. And I want them to enjoy as much success and take care of their families and watch their kids grow up and support themselves just like anybody else.
Right.
I wouldn't ever wish that I'm the only one that flies. You know that Texas is how much? 98% privately owned, I think. Yeah, 98% privately owned, right? Think about how much work that would be if I was the only guy flying ranches,
For sure.
right? Now, I would love for people to come underneath Sky Hunter, learn our system and process, you know what I mean, and join in what we're doing and how we're doing it, because I ultimately believe 1,000% delivers a better product, right? Through deliverables and, you know, investment and, you know, in drones. And again, back to the system and process, because the co-piloting thing is game changer. But I'm never going to down, you know, a guy that says I'm going to be, you know, this and this is my name and I'm going to go carve my own way, because there are guys out there that probably want to pay $1 an acre and it doesn't mean as much to them. Right. To me, that's not my customer.
Absolutely.
And when you're in business, you got to identify your customer. And my other customer, or my other company, which you've been there, I have 6 customer buckets. And those are the customer buckets that I market to, I talk to, because I want to attract and retain profitable customers.
Right.
I do not want to attract and retain unprofitable customers. That's not a business. That's a hobby.
Yep.
And I think with the drone thing, a lot of guys are in the I'm getting paid for my hobby stage, not, you know, attracting and retaining profitable customers so you can grow a business that's sustainable.
Right.
Well,
and that's one thing that is doing all these trade shows. You know, we spend a lot of time in the day and at night and at restaurants and bars together and everything, but just talking. And I've thought about it a lot since we've first met, is because the last thing I'll say on price, and I really only have one more question after that, but like, I remember when I heard it, because I'm thinking, man, you have to show up at night. You're traveling all over the place. I know this stuff isn't cheap. And I think I said it, and I may have just said it unintentionally, or I didn't mean anything rude by it, but I was like, that's all you're charging?
You did. That's exactly what you said.
I'm thinking, if you want me to show up and be out there till 2 a.m. and do all this stuff, and I was just like, now granted, again, this cost alone, but like, I hope you know by now and know me, I didn't mean that anything but
not
professionally, but I was like, man, if ranch owners think that is expensive, I was like, and that's why we never did, and we'll save it for another podcast, but people always ask me like, well, do you do those like drone recovery things? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, why not? And I was like, because you're not going to call me at 2 a.m. for $200, and I'm not going to drive to you and fly a drone. Like, no, you're not going to do that.
Yeah, we'll get into drone deer recovery in Texas on another one, because that's a whole big topic. That's a thing and a half right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to make this statement. If this actually hits the air and doesn't get cut, it is illegal in Texas to recover your animal, be it an exotic animal or a native animal, with a drone. Period. Doesn't matter. So just so everybody knows that.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. But
so one thing I've got to kind of see, because I think a big comparison, and we've talked about it quickly, but one thing I want to talk about a little more in depth is, at what point does a ranch need a helicopter survey versus needs a professional drone survey?
Okay. There's one thing that I really want everybody to know. That is not a magic bullet. It doesn't do everything. I walked off of 2 ranches this year, by the way, that were huge, and I needed the revenue, and I did not want to walk off of those ranches, right? Because I had just invested in some other things that are elevating Sky Hunter, right? But it was a helicopter ranch, and you mentioned it earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt you because we were talking, but Uvalde. There's places in Uvalde. I mean, and this is a big time prominent ranch owner, and the reason why we were there is because the ranch owner does not want the ranch manager in helicopters anymore. They don't want the liability. They don't want any of that. And man, we showed up in there, and I'm talking 2,200 or 2,100 foot peaks. The highest we could get was 300, 300 feet. We're flying down sheer canyon walls. And it's not that I couldn't do it right. It was that I can't come in a night and go, I'm going to learn how to fly this certain specific region in Texas, right? It was more of, hey, give me open access and I'll put an RTK on top of the hills, right? And do relays and stuff. And we will make an efficient system and process to come in here and fly this kind of topography.
Right.
So it's not a magic bullet, right? It's I've pulled off of 2 ranches so far. And then reflew 3. I've reflown two ranches. Because of heat and not knowing the region.
Right.
The nice thing about us now is that we've darn near been everywhere, from South Texas all the way up, past Dallas area and stuff, east and west, So now I can look at it on the map and go, ooh, you don't want us there, and you don't want us there in September. You want us there this time.
Right.
So, yeah. So there is always a place for helicopters. There's always a market for them. Everybody's like, oh, well, the drones are going to put them out of business. I'm like, far from it.
Right.
Far from it. They're doing captures. They do so many things, right? That we can't do with a drone. So,
100%.
there's enough to go around for everybody. And, I think the market's big enough for everybody. And I think the specific use cases are big enough for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, is there anything we didn't talk about that we need to hit on?
For me, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. One thing I think that's kind of near and dear to my heart is drone deer recovery. But I also think that is an entire podcast in itself. We get asked about it a lot. I do own all the URLs, all the social handles. So again, for another time, just want to say thank you so much for supporting Skyhunter and having us here today. We are, as everybody that we meet a lot in the hunting world industry, we're family owned, and our family, directly prospers from what the surveys we fly. And I can't thank those that are going to use us. And especially double thank those who booked with us, the past 2 seasons, to say thank you so much for their business.
Yeah.
Because it matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely something that small business goes so much further than people think. Like I look and I think and pray a lot, very much about all my employees, what their family's doing, growing future families, moving from where they were to now relocating to Bernie, San Antonio.
Right.
Like it's a huge difference in, like, I would love to one day, but I'm not buying my 15th, beach house and doing all this stuff. And so it's definitely something where we're trying to invest in our employees, invest in doing stuff like the podcast, and trying to invest just to help educate people. And so thank you for what you're doing in this industry. And I think you're definitely raising the bar. And that's what we're trying to promote, is just people doing great things in the industry.
We are actively looking for sponsors. Yes, if you become a sponsor, you will be promoted on our e-blasts, our social media, and our website, and so much more. But we are asking for support because this podcast is time consuming. Scheduling people, editing it, running, coming up with the questions, and all that it goes into this, but we are trying to benefit our industry. So if you want to be a sponsor and get more eyeballs on your business, or if you just want to help Droptine Studios continue to put stuff out for our industry, please consider being a sponsor. Go to droptinestudios.com/podcast, and you'll see all of our pre-made packages that you could be a sponsor for. Thank you.
When we go back to the last thing on the price thing, I'm trying to, on pricing, to stop with the investment and the growth of, equipment and whatever and plateau and level off, because I don't want to be your $1.85 guy, but I'm creeping up really close to your $1.95 guy.
And that's there's a lot of equipment out there that we would love to get and to do, but I'm telling my guys, I'm like, if we just continue to do day rates or project rates, I'm like, we don't make any more, any less money with that. So maybe one day we'll have the separation of like, hey, this project is day rate based, this project is equipment based.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I can't keep going to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into equipment to charge the same.
Well, agreed. And what people don't understand about Sky Hunter is that video you get, editing. We're doing CapCut, chop up editing, throw in some stuff and a logo that flips around and a big thing on it that says thank you because we mean it from the bottom of our heart for you, for a ranch owner booking with us, right?
How long does that take you to make that?
So let's say I do 2,000 acres. Let's say moderate. Let's say medium population, right?
Yeah.
I'm 3 hours in. Post. So let's just say it took me 2 hours to drive there, right? I really want to break this down.
Yeah.
I really do. So it took me 2 hours. Let's just say we're based out of Marble Falls, Texas. Let's say it's in Bernie. So it's taking me an hour and a half to drive there. It's taking me an hour and a half to drive back, correct? 2,000 acres is going to take me roughly 4.5 hours of survey. So we're at, what are we at there? How many hours?
4, 5, 6, 7.
Right. And then let's say we've got 3 hours of video editing, another half hour or so in the actual survey document, and then the transfer of data, right? Because these things hold a ton of data. So
how long does that take you to transfer?
It depends. Uploading it when it goes up to YouTube or whatever to hold them, it could be 10 minutes or it could be 3 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, it can. I don't think people understand how data moves either. I certainly did not before, and it's a pain.
Yep.
Now I'm the guy that has too many SD cards. Like I'm like transferring from here to there.
Right. I'll show you before we go have lunch, but I meant to show you our little server. It's not super impressive. It's very much here, but it's just like for what it takes to even just to record this podcast and to store it and to house it and to find a place for it and to have it in our NAS system and to do all this. It's like that. Not saying this to you or anyone else listening, but it's just like that hard cost probably cost us $200 in storage.
Yeah.
Just to do this because we got 3 cameras, the mics, the audios, the equipment, the this and that. And it's just like, that's just a hard cost.
And I'm going to tell you, when I met you, I knew that you do things first class. Like there's no doubt to me in this market that Droptine Studios is the best what they do. But I don't think that people understand that you guys do it on the level that you do it at. I certainly, when I walked in the door here and I saw the team finishing up, a morning stand-up meeting, we'll call it, everybody kind of deploying to their side, the sheer amount of cameras and lenses, and I'm the one who told you needed a safe door on that door, right? I was like, and then you come upstairs, you walk 20, 30 feet down the hallway here, and you come up to a beautiful, podcast studio. It's impressive. It's impressive. And I think if more people knew just that, about Droptine, maybe they wouldn't all tell us all we're so expensive.
Right. Well, I appreciate that plug, man. And I appreciate you coming here because it is a time suck. You did have to drive here and you have to drive back, and all of our guests do it. I'm very appreciative of you believing in the podcast enough to take up a couple hours of your time and to be here. So, but thank you for raising the standard in our industry, and thank you for what you're doing, helping ranch owners understand what they have. Yeah,
absolutely. Super important.
Yes, sir. Well, again, thank you, Jay. Thank you for everyone listening to the podcast. If don't forget that if you skipped or ran out of signal or whatever, go listen back and find we're going to give away $250.
Oh, wait,
and
yeah.
I'm doing it. So I'm not going to mention it. You have to scroll back and raise my analytics to find it. So we're going to find that and put it out there. But again, thank you, Jay, for coming on.
Yeah. And if you're looking, they can. Well, am I supposed to plug my own website, or is that do you do that on a podcast or no?
Here you go. Yeah, go for it. We'll put it in the description. But go ahead and
www.sky. Did anybody say www anymore? I just feel like my daughter would have said, "Dad, you're old." Right. Now.
Yeah. So
skyhuntertx.com. We're on all the social channels. TikTok. We're on Facebook, and thank God you're doing something to help us out on Instagram because it's sad. I mean, it's just sad. But anyways, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay.
Having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Hopefully next time we'll have one from each region in here.
I know. It'd be really cool to have the team. Yeah. Well, we're growing.
We'll knock it out.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.